It is.
This meeting is being recorded.
Great, thank you. Good morning, everyone. This is a meeting of the Concord Middle School Design Subcommittee. Today is Thursday, May 19th, and it's approximately 7:30 a.m. And I will call the meeting to order. I'll call roll. Court Booth.
Present.
Peter Fashalis. Not today. Don Goriello, I'm present. Russ Hughes. No Russ with us today. Lori Hunter.
Here.
Hey, Lori. Chris Popoff.
Here.
Hello, good morning. And Charlie Parker.
Here.
Great. So the meeting is called to order. First order of business is approval of meeting minutes. We have April 14th on there, although I see that we received two sets of notes, 317 and 414. Is that a typo, or were we only, just for clarity, what are you guys looking to have approved?
Don, both meeting minutes for March and April need to be approved. We put the March meeting minutes on hold last meeting.
Okay, so that's a holdover. I just don't see it listed on our agenda. Anyone know if that's kosher to approve?
So we have the minutes, but they weren't listed on the agenda.
Yeah, they were listed last meeting, I suppose, I think is what John's saying. And we held on approving them last meeting, but they didn't get carried over on the agenda. So I just want to make sure
Yeah, technically they should be on the agenda.
yeah, okay.
I guess
So
they're
why don't we
carrying
do
over
this?
again.
What's that?
Carry them over again.
Yeah, just the March. Is everyone prepared to vote on the 14th? I reviewed both, so I'll be prepared to vote come next time on the March 17th. But
Don, the other option is to put them on the whole group meeting next week, since you'll all be there.
okay,
You
And
could tuck
just-
them in then.
okay. How do folks feel? Do you want to vote on the 14th today and the March 17th next week at the larger building committee, or do we want to hold both? What's everyone thinking?
Well, I think it might be simpler for the entire committee to observe us, approve them both.
Okay, so we'll hold and we'll push those to next. Sorry, just looks like they were missed on the agenda. So we'll
I think
vote on
that's-
both the April 17th and March 17th, April 14th at the school building committee on the 26th. Okay,
And conceivably, Dawn, up to Hill, of course, we might even be approving today's minutes. So
okay, that would
a
be fine
series
as
of,
well.
yeah. So we'll keep an eye on that.
That would be
Thank you.
preferable to do all three if we could.
Okay, if you can get those out in a timely manner, we will aim to approve all three then on the 26th. But if you wouldn't mind adding that as an agenda item, that'd be great. Okay, so moving on, looks like we are already at the design development progress review. So I'm going to turn it over to SMMA to lead that discussion.
Morning, everybody. How's everyone doing?
Morning, good.
Thankfully, our AC has cooled down a little bit. We were like an ice box here yesterday, so today will probably be warm since the temperatures are not great. So we'll see. But as we get in these shoulder seasons, we all know how important it is for the HVAC system, right? So we have our Ewan Cole and SMMA team with us here today. This is actually our final design subcommittee meeting for DD. This is the comprehensive review of where we are now with the DD documents, as well as discussion of our interior finish palette. And from after this, we'll be moving our design efforts towards the estimating package on 527. And we'll bring all of that information back to the full building committee. We'll be redoing this presentation, as you know, at the building committee meeting on 526. So the goal for today, as always, is to get your critical eye and any particular feedback you have that we can address between now and the 26th to make sure that we're leading forward with the best foot forward and minimize any particular questions that you or the larger committee might have and have those addressed between now and the 26th. So Bill, I think you're sharing your screen, is that right?
That is Bill's screen. Yeah.
Is that you sharing, Bill? No, yes, okay.
Excellent. Okay.
All right, I'll hand it over to Keith. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Lorraine, and thank you to the committee for the opportunity to be with you again this morning. As Lorraine stated, our interest today is to show a comprehensive design presentation, and for that purpose, we have included several slides that you have seen previously and are familiar with. We don't intend to rehash any of those or spend much time on them. It's just so that, as a matter of record, this is one package that tells the story of our process in terms of our goals and process and our citing. So Bill, we can move on. I also just want to say one thing quickly at the outset. Saul Jabawi, our lead designer, who would typically play a significant role in this presentation, he's actually at the veterinary hospital with an emergency. So I am going to step in to his role. If we stumble over a few transitions, I'd ask you to forgive us for that, but I think we'll make our way through it. So again, critical aspects of the school design, social and emotional needs of the early adolescent, connection to the landscape, connection to Concord, a real sustainable approach to it. We can go next. Again, everybody's familiar with the site in terms of phasing, building footprint, location, organization. All of the drivers of the project have remained true through the whole design development process. Vehicular access, pedestrian access, opportunity for playing fields, the building right at the crest of the topography here. We can move on. And so today we do want to work through very minor adjustments to the floor plan. We'll talk about our continued search for materials for the exterior, and then a review of many of the interior vignettes we've already shared with you, and then a few additional spaces that we'd like to show you. So Bill will walk us through the plan advancement.
So this is the ground floor plan. I believe everyone on the call is pretty familiar, but I'll just reintroduce everything. So starting in the center, we have the main entry, and that aligns with this nice site element with the bus drop off, and then into a landscape move underneath the building out to the forest in the back. So that main entry takes you straight into the media center, which you'll see some minor changes there, introducing some casework and millwork along the corridor to help provide some transparency, and as well as some smaller offices and group rooms into that space. And then looking for opportunities to provide flexibility in the development of that space, knowing that it's something that will continue to evolve as the school evolves. From there, we'll head west to the cafeteria. So this is the dining space here. We've provided variation in seating with built-in benches and booths to allow students to have that choice and flexibility, so it's not an overly intimidating space upon entry. North of there, we have the auditorium, and you're seeing some development in the seating. We're working with our theater consultant, our acoustic consultant, as well as some seating vendors to tease out a layout that will work for the school long-term and provide a good venue for a various array of different programs, as well as a solid educational environment. North of there, we have the music rooms, and then to the west again, the gymnasium and the locker rooms with the OT-PT room over here as well. There are some minor changes to the locker room spaces here. We're just looking for efficiencies in the plumbing layout as we continue to develop the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing systems. We have the back of house, which has probably changed since you've all seen it last. That's just nuanced changes as we continue to incorporate the various systems. So moving back to the lobby, the classroom bar, so to speak, remains relatively unchanged. Again, some minor shuffling to incorporate the plumbing changes, as well as continued evolution of door swings and incorporating the various millwork components here. So with that, I can move up to the floor above. This is, again, the same changes you see on the right side. The left remains the same, I believe, since we all last convened here. You might be seeing some more furniture and millwork as we continue to coordinate the art spaces and the sign slabs. And then you can see in the white, the opening to below for the auditorium and the gymnasium and the music rooms. Those are taller volume spaces. Moving down a level, the 7th grade level, we have the 3 teams. And then at this level, we have family consumer science as well in the gray color here, or the beige color. And I'll hand it back to Keith to start talking about the palette.
So we are going to show you again our continued evolution of the exterior facade. It is essentially what we have shown you before. We're working on a few minor transitions of material and things like that, just so that as you experience the building, the material adjustments and transitions are clean and make sense. But essentially it's what we showed you at the outset of design development, both in terms of the material substitutions that we needed to make to meet the cost target, and then also the coloration. What we're working on right now is sourcing locally manufactured materials, so that just in terms of the sustainability approach to the building, and also the bidding environment, right? So that we have 3 options for purchasing both the face brick and the concrete masonry units. What we are illustrating on the lower right-hand side of the drawing is there are areas of the 4-inch CMU where we're integrating just a little bit of texture. And by that, we're recessing certain courses of that brick to just bring a little bit of texture and scale to the building. We will probably show you a few illustrations of that, but this is an important element to incorporate into the pricing set, so that the cost estimators understand exactly what we're looking for. So that this is in process and we're advancing. We can go to the next, Bill. The image at the upper is the north elevation, right, which is the approach, and then on the bottom is the south elevation, which faces the forest adjacent to the outdoor learning areas. And you can see kind of just in the center left of this image, the cafeteria in the media center, their position relative to what we call the cafeteria terrace, and then also some indication of how the building begins to roll down that landscape. Thank you, Bill. You can go to the next, and that these sections begin to illustrate that. I love these drawings, particularly the one on the lower right. Really shows kind of, from the beginning, even in our interview, we talked about the possibility that this site provides and the opportunity to integrate that landscape in the building. And you can really see how this has come to fruition. The entrance at the right-hand side of that drawing that brings you into the entrance lobby, you can see how the landscape rolls underneath the lobby and the communication center, and then opens to the landscape beyond. The upper left is the approach against that's the west side of the gym. So we're introducing a little bit of variation in the application of exterior materials. This is one of the surfaces that gets the recessed coursing. The elevation D on the upper right, that's the easternmost facade. That's the east end of the classroom buildings. And again, just looking at application of materials in a way that kind of brings some life to those volumes and forms. And on the lower left is just a little vignette, a section looking toward the classroom views. We can go to the next, please. These are additional building sections that were not illustrated in that last sequence, but at the top you can see the cafeteria auditorium and music rooms. You can see how the upper level classrooms are tucked in above the cafeteria, adjacent to the auditorium. And then in the ceiling move, you can see that that whole cafeteria inflects toward the landscape. That move allows us to raise the glazing, get a much more daylight into there. And we are really looking to maximize the engagement of the student with the landscape wherever possible. We'll show you the impact of that on the interior elevation a little deeper into the presentation. And then on the lower section, it illustrates the team commons, the 3-story educational wing, and the relationship of the landscape to that building. We can move forward. And then again, some views. Some of these, you have seen them before. You should be very familiar with them. A few minor adjustments. Let me say that this image, the perspective view in the bottom right, does not yet incorporate the adjustment to the bus lane. This is still the Le Mans, it's illustrating the Le Mans setting. I think a little bit later, Michael will touch upon the organization of the site and we can address that. But that is one piece that has been revised that is not integrated into this. But again, the the north elevation at the top illustrating the face brick, the CMU. We have a little bit of phenolic paneling at the lobby or bridge connection, and then you can see how the landscape is integrated into the building design. And we can go to the next, please. This is a, you have seen this. I suspect you have not seen the level of advancement relative to how we modulate the grade relative to the cafeteria terrace and the media center. As you're aware, as the site rolls through the building, everything to the left of the perspective image on the bottom is at grade, and the classroom wing on the right-hand side of that view includes a 3rd story, right, and is therefore depressed a little bit. And so we needed to find a way to modulate that grade. We wanted to create accessible pathways and then also make sure that we minimize both the physical and aesthetic impact of some retaining walls back there. So we've been working our way through that. Just give me 1 second here. Michael, do you want to add any discussion or commentary at this point to this approach?
No, Keith, why don't you keep going with your stuff, and we can, if there's questions about that lower area, maybe it might be a little easier to find a different view, or maybe in plan view or something like that to discuss.
No problem.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Yeah. So Bill, we can move to the next. Now, again, I don't want to rehash or go back to anything. Like we can open it up for questions as toward at the end of the presentation, or if anybody feels that they have a pressing question. But again, you should feel pretty comfortable with this, having seen it before. Right on the right-hand side of the image, you can see the gymnasium is the large volume in the background. We've introduced a clear story window there. We'll show you how that shows itself on the interior development. The auditorium is next to it, the high volume music rooms in front of that. And then we're looking at kind of the left center of the image is the administrative suite, the primary entrance, and you get some hint at the lobby and connection to the classroom, and you just get a peek at how the landscape begins to roll underneath that. We'll go to the next.
Keith, you're also seeing the masonry texture in the CMU.
Thank you very much. And that's another place where we introduced a simple textural gesture to add some interest to a very cost-efficient material.
It's a development since you've last seen this, but we felt it necessary to help break down the scale of that material.
Thank you, Bill. Yeah. Again, this is, we showed you this approach, I think probably at the first design development meeting, in terms of how we would reduce the glazing at the connecting bridge. And we think that all of those have, as we've developed it, yielded quite successful moves that they're strong in the context of the overall development. So we can go next. Again, a little more focused view on this as we've been working with the engineering team to incorporate the structural approach to things like the bridge, the mechanical distribution, the structural frame, and this is illustration of the integration of those systems. So, we have preserved and strengthened the design intent as we've advanced the integration of building systems and landscape. I will say, we probably failed to mention it right at the outset that the retaining wall that you see here actually on both sides of this site feature, that's a reinforced concrete retaining wall. We are introducing a form liner to that, which will provide a little bit of texture to that face. And then we're proposing that we would incorporate some cable elements that would encourage natural growth of some planting materials. So it's doing work for the project in terms of retaining earth, but we also want to soften it and create its ability to integrate some plant material and soften the whole experience as you make this connection under the lobby into the landscape beyond. And not only the forest, but there are outdoor learning areas that have been advanced. And I think Michael might speak to those a bit later. So we can go to the next. Again, a view that you have seen, but we've really focused on in terms of some minor adjustments to the materials. There's a darker concrete masonry unit, a kind of medium value, and a lighter on the project. You can see how these come together. The north face is that medium gray, and then the west face is just a little bit lighter. And so again, looking to provide some both color and textural variation to the realization of the building. You can just in the right, that's the equipment yard. So we're screening that with a site wall. I think one of the things that's been really beneficial as we've developed the site is that we get this little planted buffer between the face of the building and the sidewalk. We've actually addressed that. That's been in the project for weeks, but when we adjusted the position of the building just ever so slightly to maximize the grading efficiency, we gained, Michael, 8 or 10 feet or something like that. And that's really a beneficial move to just soften that building face a little bit.
Yeah, that's correct.
We go to the next, please. Now, this is the back of the building. You can really see now how, we've spoken about these outdoor learning areas, how they are nestled against the building. They are integrated into the landscape and the site, but then also take advantage of the view toward the tree line. We've worked back and forth with Michael and the whole SMMA team to create these so that they're easily accessible to the classroom. They're along, kind of a meandering path, and they are configured in such a way that they take advantage of the grading and also create a focus on the building. The topography here begins to roll away from the building right to left. And so these little seating elements, they help us to navigate a change in grade. And so that again, we're retaining wall doing work for us and providing, opportunity to be inhabited and utilized for the school. And then you can see the cafeteria terrace beyond with a lower platform, which is accessible to this whole outdoor learning sequence, and an upper platform or terrace, which is at the level of the media and the cafeteria. Mike, I'll give you another chance if you want to jump in and talk about the materials or any treatment of these areas here. Or...
Sure. Yeah. Just really quickly. So in this area, the orientation Keith just mentioned, the orientation of these outdoor classrooms to us is really important. So we want to take advantage of the topography. We also want to take advantage of the orientation. We also want to really take advantage. It's very rare that we get a chance and opportunity to create outdoor classrooms in what is essentially a forest, right? So the location and the alignment of these spaces is really important, so that we create spaces where the children will be out with a teacher, the backdrop of the teacher, whereas usually we have a backdrop of, say, a building or, just an open area or even a parking lot. Sometimes, this opportunity, the children are going to be sitting there with the teacher, and the backdrop behind that teacher is going to be a beautiful, mature wooded forest. That's a real great opportunity that we really get to have. So that's really important. And we also are taking advantage again of the existing topography, and we're sort of terracing each of these different outdoor classroom areas too. So each one of them is a little lower than the finished floor of the building, but then each one of them progressively steps a little bit lower even from there. So as we're moving away from the building horizontally, we're also moving away from the building vertically and trying to sort of create this feel that we're sort of stepping into the forest. And as you get to the third, what we'll call the third furthest outdoor classroom away from the building, you're almost 5-6 feet lower vertically than the finished floor of the building. So it really starts to give a feel of being learning about nature right in nature. So I think that's a real interesting part of this design that's really unique to the site, and it's really unique to the way we made those initial decisions to place the building.
So the next image is just kind of a summary view of the various aspects of the exterior development. Again, I hope that all of you kind of see this as consistent with everything we've shown you to date, although with just some deeper refinement. And so in some sense, it's all the same, it's just better. And so we'll begin to move toward the interior. We have put forward some early themes about the interior development, both about looking at it, again, being conscious of making a strong connection to the landscape, and not a vague landscape, but the landscape in Concord and the landscape at this site. Opportunities for the analogy of a river or occupying the edge of the forest, and how those things may have a spatial impact, like the creation of eddies, or have screening elements. And we use those back to the very beginning slide about the emotional needs of the early adolescent, right? Create opportunities for retreat and repose that are immediately against spaces of assembly and gathering. So some people can be in the center of attention, others can be a participant in those things, but they do it from a little bit of sense of privacy. And then these metaphors give us a little bit of hint or clue as to how they get realized in material selection and development of forms. I think Sarah with SMMA is going to talk a little bit about our palette and how we're moving forward on that.
Wonderful. Thank you, Keith. Hi, everybody. I'm Sarah along with SMMA. I've been working very closely with Keith and Bill and the rest of the U and Cole team on furthering developing the interior palette. And again, really tying in with all of the themes that we've seen in this presentation so far. On this slide, we're seeing a couple of the other things that we're keeping in mind. Obviously, technical performance of the interior is very important. We're working with our acoustic consultant throughout to make sure that we're providing an acoustically sound space. We're looking at recycled content, optimizing our daylighting, and of course, our wonderful views into the surrounding landscape. One of the other things is obviously cost effectiveness. We're being very thoughtful about the different materials that we're choosing. The other thing obviously is keeping in mind things that are sourced in the US, things that are easily accessible. So that's something that we're continuing to develop as our palette develops and the interior progresses. And then obviously aesthetics are very important. And really what we're looking to do here is to support the pedagogy and also really provide something that is both warm and inviting for the students and the community, but also timeless and age appropriate. So finding different opportunities to provide color and interest while looking at some elements that might be there for a longer period of time and having something that's a more neutral palette. And we'll see that moving forward. Thank you. So, so this is, we wanted to share this. These are some images of our color palette that we've really been using as inspiration moving forward. So you're not necessarily going to see all of these colors in the renderings that Bill and team are going to be sharing with you today, but it really serves as inspiration for us. And really, again, looking at the concept based on themes of nature, again, speaking to that forest edge, looking at the river and streams, and how we can use some of these pops of color to enhance wayfinding and placemaking within the project. So within teams, within specific areas, whether it's the auditorium. So you'll see that in some of our renderings moving forward, how we've started to apply some of these pops of color and different gradients of color. Again, having moments of some that are a little bit more saturated and some that are a little bit more subdued to evoke different feelings for the students, make sure that everybody has a comfortable place to be, but really building that upon a neutral base palette. And so these are a couple of images, again, of us just developing some of the specific materials that are going to be in the project. So as you can see, some of our flooring, we're keeping it fairly neutral, again, as using that as a building point, but we're still looking at things that have some texture to it, whether it looks like stone or evocative of water, some sort of movement to, really, again, enhance the architecture with select pops of color and accents, again, just to kind of bring it all back together. We are planning on doing porcelain tile in the hallways for protection, but again, we're keeping that very neutral. We want the students and the activity that they bring to the school to really be the focus, so again, you'll see through the different renderings that are upcoming, how we're starting to develop that. And again, we're working through the different millwork opportunities and casework, which again, as Bill had mentioned, we're continuing to develop, having solid surface in places of where we've got a sink and trying to be smart about where we're placing different materials for durability and longevity. So whether it's wood for millwork or plastic laminate in some areas, again, just to be cost effective, but again, looking at durable solutions that'll stand the test of time.
So thank you, Sarah. So, as Sarah was just mentioning, the actual selection of the materials in terms of texture, hue, saturation, opacity, all of those things are critically important in realizing the intent of a building. The other thing is where those colors are applied is also important, right? In terms of kind of reinforcing a sense of journey, of destination, of arrival. And so we're exploring some of those things through these vignettes. So not only what the material is, but where it gets applied is important. And so I think, and my expectation and hope is that you will recognize many of these vignettes as previously shown to you, but with just another level of refinement and iteration. So this is the entrance lobby. In previous meetings, we've illustrated to you the impact of the bridge, which connects the upper level or 8th grade classrooms across this lobby to the language and art classrooms above. Also creates a great sense of transparency. The playing fields are through the glazing on the left side or the north, and then the outdoor learning and amphitheater and things like that are to the right, and that's looking south. We've integrated these small gathering spaces that are kind of separated by pylons, which could be used to display student work or current events or school activities. In our previous discussion, there was a question about, hey, is this maybe a little bit too orthogonal? Is there a opportunity to introduce some softness? We're also looking at the kind of the stream concept. And so we're illustrating a proposal in this series of images where we integrate into the flooring a reference to the Concord River and the landscape. And so this is a not a river, right, but the Concord River. And what we've inscribed in there is the contour of the land at a particular point. And actually this orange dot there indicates Thoreau's home in relationship to that river line. We've laid over the top of it some kind of measuring data, right? So I think, Bill, we even go to the next, we can just continue to work through some of these. Oh, I'm sorry, before I also wanted to mention that we did, if you go back quickly once, you know, I was talking about transparency and things like that. You can see in this is looking toward the main entrance and to the media center and cafeteria beyond, but we've incorporated some glazing into the conference room there. There's a interior window to the art rooms above, right? And so now, you know, if you're a student in the art class, you have an opportunity to view over the lobby. If you're in the lobby, maybe you get a peek of some student work happening above you. And so we continue to explore spatial, you know, kind of adjustments and kind of introduce a layer of, I don't know, maybe complexity or refinement that you see in some of these. So we go to the next, sorry for that little segue. But what we're doing here is in order both to kind of to deepen the interest of the graphic, but also introduce some utilities, we're proposing to inscribe within this graphic certain known dimensions. And Bill, you can help me out. I think the larger lines are 12 feet, right? So then it's the 6 feet and 3 feet. And so you could have some mathematical exercise, some scientific exercise. If you're building cars or things like that, you know, how far did it go? You know, what's the difference between a foot and 3 feet, the relationship between 6 feet and 20 feet or 24 feet. So we're looking, as we incorporate some graphic elements that introduce interest to the project, we're working again to root it in its place and provide some utility to the educational program. And our proposal is that similar devices appear maybe 3 times in the building, one here, one at the cafeteria, and maybe one just at the kind of ante room that connects the cafeteria and auditorium. Those other locations are less developed, and we won't show you detailed advancement of those. Again, just another peek at you know, how these pylons both create places of quiet recluse, but also they're simultaneously transparent. You get some framed landscape views. Go next. As we move to the west, this is a peek into the media center. Again, this happens to be directly aligned with the interest. This opening is calibrated to the vestibule. So as you enter the building, you literally have a shot through the building to the landscape beyond. You get a hint of the flow of the common spaces down toward the cafeteria and the auditorium. We're reinforcing that that circulation path with the introduction of this wood ceiling above, and we're again, measuring that against the square footage adjustments made in schematic design. Move forward a little bit, please. Again, you should recognize these. We've integrated some tiered steps that could also act as seating. Yeah, this view through. Just behind this screen is an open stair to the art and world language rooms above. We think that will provide a very convenient path to students on the second floor as they come and go to the cafeteria, gym, and auditorium, providing informal gathering spaces in this tiered seating. You can see some booths beyond. And then just out to the right here is, again, a series of banquettes that includes a divider. These screens are in the way that they're rendered. And when I meant rendered, I don't mean drawn and illustrated. I mean brought to life in detail. How they're actually realized will create those sense of screening and privacy, and also, strengthen the reference to the forest and the tree. But what we're trying to do here is introduce as many different seating options as possible, so there's variation for students. Again, that similar theme. You want to be in the middle of everything, right? Or do you want to view from the edge? And we're looking at opportunities to integrate those things. View to the landscape beyond. We'll go to the next. And then again, this is a vignette illustration of that comment I made when we were talking about the building sections, how the interior volume inflects toward the south in the landscape and really kind of brings the reality of place to the forefront. We go to the next. Back into the media center. What we're really working on here is including full height shelving along the east and west walls, so that we get kind of volume and density of materials, and that allows us to keep the floor plate relatively open and spacious and maintain transparency throughout the space. It's a series of low bookshelves that are mobile on wheels, and then small collaborative gathering spaces in between. And those are established in such a way that the furniture could be aggregated for a group setting, or even or pulled apart for more private contemplation. So there's a lot of flexibility in this space, we think. Go to the next. Let me also say, just go back. This begins to give a hint of what Sarah spoke about. So even if you look at the fascia on the right side of this view, that is a less saturated blue-green, and then the one beyond is a little more saturated, a little more intense. And that's an illustration of how we want to look at the color palette, right? Maybe not include every hue, right? But include levels of intensity within the same color family to add a little bit of richness, but not like wild circus kind of stuff. Go to the next. That was not a Saul Jabawi term, by the term wild circus. That's my own. Now, I don't think we have shown you these. This is our development of the auditorium. And we've really been working closely with your educational team. There's a theater consultant on board, there's an acoustical consultant, and so we're working hard to incorporate the acoustical performance issues, as well as give this some character and definition. So this is just a series of GFRP, glass reinforced fiber panels. It's gypsum, all right, that's just formed, but it has a little bit of ability to form it. And so series of wall and ceiling panels that are folded together. Their form and shape is to enhance acoustical performance, but also to provide some interest. And again, it's a fairly neutral palette that really brings attention to the proscenium and the platform and the seating. We go to just work through a series of these. So you can see we've integrated a little bit of lighting within the panels, and we're able to incorporate the theatrical lighting in the gaps of the ceiling panels, and that's where there'll be house lighting and mechanical distribution as well. And this is just the rear wall. That rear wall needs to be absorptive, and so Bill, you can correct me. I believe we're proposing a fabric covered surface back there, or
Yeah, acoustic panels, and we'll continue to work with the acoustician because it might need to be 75% acoustic and 25% reflective. So
I don't really want to get too much into the weeds, but you can see on the right hand of this, that happens to be the whole floor is sloped, and that's about generating good sight lines. But there's also an accessible path from through the auditorium to the platform, and you can see that on the right hand side of this image. And then finally, I think, well, actually, this is the next image is new to you. Again, continued exploration of the gymnasium. You can see on the right-hand side, that's the clear story that's up high. And, we've mentioned several times that really this is about creating kind of a neutral treatment to the building and then being quite considered in the application of color. And so we're this gymnasium, like every high school gymnasium, has athletic padding at the lower level to approximately 7 or 8 feet. We're proposing that be gray. Maybe that's a little bit of a departure from what you might see in many ways. That, not in every, but in a fair number of gyms, that becomes the medium to carry color. And we're proposing to almost invert that, right? Let that be silent, restrained, and then apply color to the end wall up high. And that does acoustical work for us as well. And then also take a similar color and apply that to the structural frame. And so it kind of highlights the opportunity for the building as a teaching tool. Again, this gymnasium is calibrated to the sizes we all rehearsed in feasibility and schematic design. There are some retractable bleachers on the left-hand side, and then access to both storage, well, I said both, but to storage, faculty offices, and toilet rooms on the right-hand side. And then just another study of the team commons. I will tell you that this is still in development, and particularly the organization of the lockers. We are showing them to be low here because we're interested in maintaining transparency through the learning commons to the classrooms and the landscape beyond. Rightly so, the educational team is questioning students' access to those lockers, and can we get them off the floor a little bit and not have students crawling over one another. So we're continuing to look at alternate options for that maintain the design intent, and we're advancing that. I just bring that up. It's not a hindrance to the development of the cost pricing set, or it's not lagging in the design process. It's just, I just wanted to say that I wanted to recognize that we have heard the educational team's feedback. We're working on that, and just so that this committee hears that. Go to the next. So this is 7th and 8th grade. These team commons don't carry lockers, so there's a little bit more flexibility in there. Again. And then a few views from within the classrooms looking out to the team commons. This shows the operable partition in the open position. This would be 6th grade because you can see the lockers. This is non-6th grade, so 7th or 8th, where there is no lockers. I'll also say that, you know, the real definition of what casework happens within that counter space is subject to some refinement. There's lots of possibilities. It could be finely tuned to some purpose. It could be just some general cabinetry that would provide some storage for the team. It's just another layer of refinement that has to happen as the project progresses. And I think we might have just 1 or 2 more peeks of a classroom. Yeah, so again, now this is a view toward the teaching wall, right? Incorporation of a flexible monitor that carries information, and then whiteboards and tack boards behind it. On the just out of the image on the right-hand side is where that operable partition that could aggregate 2 classrooms if they were together. There's lots of flexibility in this arrangement. The classrooms can be open to one another. They can be open to the commons. And I think we might even illustrate a situation where they are open to one another, but not open to the commons. I'm not sure if that's going to come next, but and again, this is a these are initial studies of the application of color, right? And so you can see here that we're not applying it to the teaching wall. It's almost maybe an approach that you would find similar to what we did at the gymnasium, you know, and so let the teaching wall carry educational information, and then the other walls, either within the soffits or fascias or exterior wall, that's where you can carry some color. We have been talking with your education team about whether teams or grades are identified by the color palette or by some other, it could be a naming convention, so that is a real level of refinement that we're beginning to investigate. The south elevation, I should just note, you can see here the introduction of the shading device because of the southern facing, and that goes all the way back to feasibility study exploration, right, about the sustainable performance of the building. So you can see that coming to life here a bit. Go to the next. And so that's where we stand right now. I feel that we have, you know, kind of covered the various kinds of spaces within the building. We've established the character and material applications of it. I think it's going to be very, we think it's in conformance with material types and quantities identified through schematic design. And so thank you for the opportunity to present. We're happy to answer any questions that you might have.
All right, we're gonna open it up to questions from the design team. There's a lot there. You guys have done a lot of work. It looks great. Lots of progress, and I appreciate the, you know, the natural materials and the connections that you're trying to make back to Concord. So thank you for that. The flooring in the lobby in particular looks, it's a stronger presence. So well done.
Yes. Yeah, thank you very much. That's been a real fun thing to look at, and we think we'll look at a couple other locations to build upon. But and actually, Dawn, that's a response to your criticism at an earlier meeting. So we appreciate that feedback.
Yeah, my pleasure. Only trying to help, and I think you you did a good job with it. So thank you for being responsive. It just feels more organic now, which is really what you guys are aiming for. So
yeah.
Good job.
Any questions or comments?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, hi. No questions at this point. Thank you very much. Quite clear. I'm looking forward to a closer look at the slides between now and our next meeting. But Keith, I continue to be impressed with how you articulate philosophy behind your approaches. And I would say the same to Saul were he with us today. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Court.
I think we wowed them.
How about that? And we might even give them some time back in their day, which would be the most beneficial thing of anything.
Bill, would you mind unsharing just for a minute in case there's any? Thank you. Don, I think I'd like to say people are speechless.
Yeah. Well done, guys.
Certainly a lot of content, so it
yeah.
definitely takes some time to unpack.
Okay. Well, if there's no questions for the design team, you've done a fabulous job. It says our next action item is a design subcommittee recommendation. Is that something that is, yes, being that I'm just stepping into this with the agenda.
I think we can take that off of there.
Okay.
It's just,
So,
it's more
leave.
about recommending that presentation to the full building committee if there are any changes.
Okay.
So I think it's,
no, I think it's good to go. Okay.
Yeah, I think de facto we're simply moving forward.
I think we're losing you, Court. You're a little bit, your sounds like maybe your internet is going down, your connection. But unless anyone feels differently, we would, recommend that you guys put this forward to the larger group next week. I think it's great. We're still losing you, Court, so I'm gonna mute you. Maybe I'm not. I don't have that control. Okay, so next meeting. Can someone mute him? I know he has something to say. Court, if you can hear us, please put it in the chat. Because
John, can you mute him? You
Yeah,
have
I
control
can't.
of
I
it.
can't mute. John, if you could.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying. It's not letting me.
So it's okay.
no one's
So
actually
he
controlling things.
he got cut off. As I mentioned at the
he actually
beginning,
got cut off. Okay.
yeah, we don't have another design subcommittee because at this point now we are moving into the estimating package, and then if there's any follow-up coming out of that, that will all occur at the building committee meetings. So this was our final presentation to the design subcommittee. I'm delighted it was a good one. And as our team said, we have a couple of things we're still going to work through, primarily just about access for those lockers, and obviously complete as we move into the contract document stage. A lot of the documentation will evolve based on this design, and will continue to mirror and meet the goals that have been set forth. I think it's been really positive. I really appreciate everybody's time. It's very helpful to have these meetings in advance of the full building committee meeting, get your critical eyes on this, and bring it to a place where I think everybody is in agreement that the design intent is both met, achieved, but it's also beautiful.
Great. So with that, I guess I'll open it up to public comment. Do we have anyone today? Heather Bout.
Guys.
Hi.
Just because there were no comments and everybody was speechless, I just have to say that was awesome. It was so great, and it was really fun to see all the colors and the advancements and everything. And I'll make more detailed comments and questions when we all meet, but I just wanted to say that was great, and it's so exciting to see like these developments coming along. That's my only comment.
Mm-hmm. I concur, Heather. Thank you.
Looked great.
Thanks.
Dawn, I'll just add, Justin and I had a preview of this, so I'm underwhelmed in my statements this morning because I've already shared that with all of them. So don't take the silence as anything indicative. Yeah.
All right, well, if nothing else, excellent job, team. We will look forward to seeing it as a second time around a week from now. All right, with that, I will look for a motion to adjourn then.
So moved.
Thank you, Frank. Frank, I don't have you listed as a subcommittee member.
You don't?
No. I missed you on the roll call this morning. It says
Yeah.
subcommittee, Court, Peter, Dawn, Russ.
I don't think I
Lori.
am on a subcommittee, maybe.
Oh.
I'll say this.
That's what this is. Next week's the full committee, so. All right, well, I'm gonna have you not make the motion, Frank, just to
Okay.
be sure. But I appreciate you being here. I hope you enjoyed the presentation.
I did, but it's,
Excellent.
I will say, make a comment, seeing I'm on. And the comment is all the light colors and it's beautiful, but who's going to keep it clean?
The students.
I think-
Hopefully they're proud of the space. That's
It's
my
gonna be
experience.
maintained. It's gonna be some maintenance, you know.
So I think Frank, the one thing is that the more durable, harder surfaces like the porcelain tile and ceramic tile are at the wainscot level and the paint is above.
Yeah.
So we have been very successful in our projects with that. And the height of that wainscot tile is very critical to, we think about the student, the age of the students and the backpacks, because they tend to walk leaning against the walls sometimes. So, really we pay a lot of attention to that material being a washable material. And then the paint is above that, what I would call active level.
Frank, that is a good comment, and I appreciate you bringing it to the fore. And I will say that in our presentation, we did fail to state that all of the corridors are treated with that porcelain tile wainscot. We can do a better job and reinforce that at the outset in our meeting next week. We have had those discussions with the educational team as well as their facilities people, and the flooring and the wall treatment, particularly, at 40 inches and below, is durable and washable and cleanable. So it's a good comment. We can reinforce that next week. So thank you.
Great, okay. So motion to adjourn? No one wants to leave?
So
It's on-
I'll make a motion, but I'm not a voting member.
You're not a,
I so move.
There we go.
okay, thank you. All right, we'll give it to Charlie. Second?
Who can second it, Dawn? We need clarity of the membership.
You
I
can,
think.
Chris can,
All
Charlie
right, I'll
made it.
second it then.
Okay.
No problem.
Okay, we lost Court, I think, and Peter's not with us, I think. I'm a yes. Lori?
Yes.
Russ is not a voting member, but hi, Russ. Chris Popoff?
I think he dropped off too.
He
Oh,
did.
boy. Charlie Parker?
Yes.
Okay, is that, I'm gonna assume that's okay for us to.
We started with a quorum,
Yeah,
so that's all that
okay.
matters. And I think
All right.
we still have it. Yeah. it's
Excellent.
fine.
Okay. Well, with that, we'll see everyone next week. Great job, everyone, on the design and